So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape. So here we are, Single on Purpose, the podcast, episode 1. And I got to be honest with you, I had a lot of reservations before launching this podcast because I didn't want to just do another podcast. I'm so sick of listening to myself. I have my other podcast, which is 3 days a week, and I didn't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. But then I thought about how can I give value and do it in a way that is different, that is sustainable, that is more valuable than just me sitting on the toilet talking into my phone, which is my other podcast. And I came up with the idea of rotating hosts and having it really host-driven instead of guest-driven, although there will be guests. And then giving that space to experts and coaches and therapists and powerful catalysts to do what they want with that space. And of course, I will be also one of them. And then that got me excited because I'll be honest, this book, Single on Purpose, has sold the most and out of all my books, which tells me that it has hit a nerve, tells me that we need to give singlehood a cape. And I feel an obligation to continue to create a dialogue and help people, especially singles, as much as I can. So here it is, episode 1, and I hope you enjoy this. I hope you thread this into your life because it's going to go 3 days a week. I'm going hard. I'm going big. I want it to be something that you listen to throughout the week, catch when you can. I want it to be handrails for your life. So whether you're single or not, that it is a way for you to connect to yourself. I also want it to be the giant box of crayons, the ones where you can't even pronounce some of the colors. I don't want it to just be the primary colors. What I mean by that is I want it to be diverse, and I want to talk about all different things when it comes to connecting to yourself, all different angles, all different doors, all different topics, and then in different ways. And I will leave that up to the rotating hosts. Okay, this podcast, I wanted to start with my own story. I wanted to start with my long stretch of being single on purpose. After my divorce, I was 35, and I had nothing. I had no friends. I had no money. I had just started working in nonprofit on my journey to becoming a therapist. And I was lonely. I was discouraged. I felt old. I felt defective because society stamps divorced on your head when you get divorced, right? And I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know where to start. And so the first thing I did when I was single is I said, okay, how can I start connecting to me? How can I live a life, or actually build a life that feels honest to me? Because I've been living mostly pseudo. I've been seeking approval, validation. I've been chasing a poster that wasn't honest to me. And so I thought about this concept of your solid self, and it's something I learned in therapy school. And I asked myself, what does that look like to pull from my solid self, which is your authentic self, not your pseudo self. Your pseudo self is the approval seeking side of you. And the thing is that your solid self is usually the quiet whisper, because we don't listen to our solid self. we usually listen to our pseudo self, which has been tainted by shoulds and advertising and, you know, programming. And the pseudo self is the thundering voice. The solid self is the quiet whisper. And so what I did was I said, okay, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to start listening to the quiet whisper. And over time, this really changed my life. And it was hard because I wasn't used to listening to me. You know, I was used to listening to others, to my parents, to what's on the billboard, commercials, advertising. And so I started there. And if you break your life into, you know, different categories like your work life, your friendships, your family, your fitness, you know, however you want to divide up all the life pieces, ask yourself if you are pulling from your solid self. Ask yourself where in your life do you feel the most pseudo? Because depending on who we're around, there's that pseudo tug, you know. Usually with our children, we're very solid, right? Sometimes at work, if you are working for a boss with an iron fist, if your workspace is fear driven, you're probably pseudo. In relationships, if you are in one, you may be very pseudo. Or the last thing about your last relationship, were you pseudo? Were you doing life around your partner? Were you walking on eggshells? Were you expressing to your partner what you need? Maybe with friendships, maybe you're in lopsided friendships. Maybe you're the friend that you know, has to set everything up, or you're the one that's always early. What would it look like for you to start pulling from your solid self? That may be sending mom to voicemail. That may be drawing boundaries. That may be ending friendships. That may be, and by the way, when you end friendships, you don't need to announce that. Usually, you just kind of fade away. No one, no one calls, no one calls, no one calls their friend and says, "Hey, listen, I'm breaking up with you." That's a little weird and dramatic. Um, you may choose to date differently, you know. So I started there, and what that led to in behavior was um, me dropping into my body, asking myself, "Hey, what do I need today?" And this led to a motorcycle. 'Cause I wanted a motorcycle my entire life and got no's starting in the 80s when I was just a kid, and my parents thought dirt bikes and motorcycles were too dangerous. And then, you know, when I got married, of course, wife, no, they're too dangerous. Okay, I get it. And so when I got divorced, I was like, the thing about being single is you don't really have to answer to anyone. And I said, you know what? You wanted a motorcycle for a long time. Go get one. So I got a little Ducati Dark and Ducati Monster, and that was something for me, right? I've had six now, and I still ride my motorcycle almost every day. I also said, what kind of fitness do I want to do? Because I was used to just going into the global gym and, you know, doing chest and curls and just for aesthetics. And I looked like a pigeon because I had never done a squat in my life at 35. So I found functional fitness. I found CrossFit. And with that came community. So that was a lifesaver for me. That was a vine that really pulled me out of the quicksand because um, the thing that I say is the most important when you're single is out of your house and out of your head. You know, go get busy, go build something. Where are you going? And then who are you going with? Or where are you going and then who's coming with you? And if you reverse the order, you'll be going alone because when I was married, the order was who's coming with me, which was the person I was with, and then where am I going, right? And when you're single, you got to take the power back and you got to tell yourself or ask yourself, where are you going? What are you building? What are you meant to do on this planet? And then who's coming with you? And there's something very attractive about that because now you have purpose, you have passion. And if you don't know where you're going, at least you are on that road to discovering, right? And so that is very attractive. And it also attracts um, people. It attracts people because you become attractive. You are the ride that people are going to want to go on because you are going somewhere. You're not just a little spinning teacups. You're the colossal roller coaster that there's a weight to get on. That's what you should visualize. That's what you should see yourself as. So that was my mindset, and what was fulfilling for me was writing and helping other people. So when I got home, that's what I did. And here's the other thing: I didn't just do it in a way that I thought I should, because I tried that and that shit didn't work. So I put on the wrinkle free pants. I did the treatment centers. I went to I got jobs at high paying addiction rehabs in Malibu, where I got paid very well, and that shit was shady. I worked in, of course, nonprofit. I also worked in private practice. So I did everything. And then at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? You know what feels honest to me? You know what feels where I feel the most solid is meeting people at the coffee shop. I've been living in coffee shops for, the last 20 years trying to write screenplays. I shouldn't say try, writing screenplays. I have to change my language. Um, and I felt comfortable there. So I'm going to meet people at the coffee shop. Instead of screenplays, I'm blogging, and I'm going to help people online. And I'm going to break some rules, and I'm going to call myself a coach, because as a therapist, there are things that you can't do. And so I met couples at the park, and we just laid a blanket, did a couple session. I walked around this lake in Silver Lake, which is exactly 50 minutes. And I started to build a practice and work in a way that felt very me, making house calls on my motorcycle and stuff like that. At the time, webcams were things you plugged in. A lot of people were on dial up. But I started that early on, started running groups online. I mean, now it's the now it's the common language, but before that was very, very weird and strange. And people showed up on AOL, and because they were on dial up, they looked like robots, like they wasn't streaming fast enough. Anyway, here's what that did though. It changed my state, right? It took the bib that I had, and it turned it around, and it turned it into a cape, a tiny cape, but it was a cape. I felt purpose driven. I felt like I am now taking charge of my life. I am doing things that felt very me. And if you do this, your version of this, you start to live inside out instead of outside in. There's a chapter in my book called I Found Myself Through Donuts, Barbells, and Motorcycles. And it's true. My rebirth, my rebuilding, my connection to self um, wasn't in Bali. It wasn't expensive. I wasn't on a plane going to exotic locations and um, eating amazing foods. And I mean, I wish that was the case. But I was broke and drinking coffee out of styrofoam, and I had earbuds in my ears all the time because I was taking in information. So I was listening to like Wayne Dyer and other people, podcasts, YouTube, all that stuff, as a form of learning, as a study. And then I would have a donut once a week as a treat, as a reward. And then when I was working in nonprofit, every Friday I'd bring in a box of donuts, and that's where Fuck It Friday came from. And then I would help people, and I would just start documenting, and it was very me. That experience of being single, and then building my life like that felt very empowering. Now, I was also lonely. I was also scared that I wouldn't meet anyone. Um, I don't know how much time I spent on dating apps, but I was definitely uh, putting myself out there, whether it's social media, flirting a little bit. Um, I don't know if I was ready for a relationship, but I was lonely. I was horny. I was, I wanted to be with someone, and it didn't happen. The universe cock blocked all my suitors, and I went single for like 4 years, and I wasn't like at clubs trying to aggressively, pick up on women or anything like that. But I didn't have a lot of success. I didn't have like I think I used dating apps, and of course I would flirt at parties and stuff like that, and I would try to be social. Um, but I didn't get a lot of people interested in me, and for 4 years, and I think looking back, that would have distracted me. I wasn't ready. And so I needed to really connect to myself. I needed to build something. I needed to get momentum. I needed to have a routine, and that needed to be locked in and into place before I met someone. Because I think at that time, if I had met someone, especially if I met someone that I was super excited about, all the shit I was building would just kind of go by the wayside, And this happens all the time where we meet someone, we get excited, they become the sun we revolve around, and then we stop doing the things that we were doing for us. So 4 years, I think 4.5 years, it was a long stretch of singlehood. If you're listening to this and you're 6 months single, I'm going to tell you right now, relax, because 6 months is nothing. And in that 4 years, I started to build. I blogged my ass off. Instead of wondering um, when I'm going to meet someone next, I ask myself, who do I want to be when I meet that person? So I bring more to the table, right? And I wrote like 5,000 blog posts. When today someone says, with me and my friends, or someone says like, the stuff that you're doing, oh, you got lucky, or it's, overnight. No, it's not. I put my head down and fucking wrote for 5 years, and I knocked out, 5,000 blog posts. You do that because that's what it takes to build an audience. I mean, even my, my other podcast, Angry Therapist, I think I'm on like, I don't know, 500 episodes or something. So it takes time. And, that's where I put the work in. And the image I'm thinking about, I talk about this a lot, is being the basement guy. When Iron Man is, by the way, Iron Man is my favorite superhero. My Korean name is Iron, by the way, no joke. It's Char, which means iron. Um, and then the man part, I guess, is subjective, depending on how you view me. But I talk about the basement guy, and the basement guy is, I forgot which one, which Iron Man it was, but when Iron Man is now famous and he's tap dancing, and I don't, there's like this whole celebration and parade, and he saved the world. You pan down and you see this guy in the basement, shirtless, doing pull-ups, and he's making these electric whips. And he's got like long hair, and he's got like, scars all over his body. And you know that when this guy surfaces, shit's gonna go down. And that's like the mindset I had when I went to the gym, when I was blogging, when I was, doing whatever in session. I felt like the basement guy. I felt like I'm gonna go in my basement. I'm gonna build something, and I'm gonna get obsessive about it. And when I surface, like, people are gonna know. And I don't mean that like in an arrogant way, but like, people around me are gonna know because I've been busy building shit, not just on my couch eating my feelings. And that was always like the image I had, and it gave me a lot of motivation. So I don't know if that's helpful for you, but I'm just telling you what was helpful for me. And then over the years, things started to happen, stars lined up, opportunities happened, and I really believe that that was a direct result of me going from a lower frequency, living outside in, to over the the stretch of the 4 years, living inside out, pulling from my solid self, and then having the ability to now live on a higher frequency. So, real quick, what are higher frequencies? Love, gratitude, optimism. Two of my favorites: creativity, curiosity, joy, being present. What are some lower frequencies? Let's start with the two that I lived in: dread and worry. I lived in mostly dread and worry, and it was horrible. And being in that lower frequency um, made me, it made me discouraged and invisible. So over the 4 years, being in a higher frequency pulled me out of the quicksand, and then slowly, because things happen over time, right? There are some spikes, but over time, I built friendships, a community, a workout routine, a writing routine, a practice, and I've been doing that ever since, right? Injecting joy, being present, all the stuff that you know about, you hear about, but threading that into my life and building myself uh, a safe container, what I call a life container, and then pedaling that bike until your container is solid, and then growth becomes organic. Growth becomes, you just have to live this way. So then it's about life design. So that's my story, and I'm going to continue to do episodes with all the other experts. Thank you for listening. I hope you tell a friend about this podcast. This isn't just about tools that will help you. It's about holding hands and spreading a message that um, Barbie never needed Ken. All she needed was that fucking vet, And that media and society says that if you're single, then you're incomplete or defective or salvage. And that's not true. When you're single, you have the richest soil for growth and the best opportunity to connect to yourself. If you want to be a part of our newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. And thank you for listening. Be well. I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you could just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend.
Hi, John. This is Kath, and this is my singlehood story. So, I've been single for more than 3 years, and before that, I was in a 4-year relationship, which was very toxic and codependent. It brought out the worst in me, and I found it very difficult to break free from that person. I was even in denial for 6 months. I didn't want to acknowledge just how bad the relationship was and how it was affecting my emotional, my mental, and my spiritual health. So when I finally did, I started asking myself questions like, what can I do so I don't attract the same kind of person or relationship next time? And that got me into seeking help from coaches, mentors, teachers. So I started doing life coaching, and I discovered energy healing. So I got into that. I was able to establish a meditation practice that worked for me, and even got certified in yin yoga and meditation. So the last 3 years has been about diving deeper into my spirituality, being intentional about self work, and cultivating self awareness so I can be, so I can really see the patterns that I keep repeating and empower myself so I don't make the same choices, so I can make better choices in the future. And because of, doing all these things like meditation, yoga, Reiki, I realized that that toxic relationship happened because I had the same toxic traits as my ex partner. And as hard as it was to admit to myself, that changed everything, that changed my perspective. And for sure, like, I didn't want another toxic relationship. So I had to learn how to change my focus from external validation, like focusing on whoever I was with, and changing that into introspection, inward looking. And before, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Like, during my first session with my life coach, she had this big mirror at her studio, and we were doing an exercise where she asked me to look at myself in the mirror. Like, I couldn't even directly look at myself in the eye because there was a lot of shame there. I found it hard to forgive myself for getting myself into that kind of relationship. And, forgiveness, self forgiveness, self love, self awareness, all these things. It's a journey. It's messy. It's not linear. Some days are easier than others. But, the gift of that is I've learned how to sit with my emotions and not try to distract myself from them. Because the more that I run away from them, the harder it is to heal, if that makes sense. So in the last 3 years, my journey has really been about being my own best friend. And I recently moved into my own place, so now I live alone. And if this happened earlier, I don't think it would have worked out between me and myself. Like, seriously, I wouldn't be able to take the fact that I'm alone most of the time. Like, I would find a way to run away from myself. And doing all these self discovery, self awareness work, it also helped me look back at my first relationship, which lasted 7 years. So it took me a decade to actually see that from an objective point of view. Like, before, I would only focus on what went wrong, what he did wrong. But now I'm able to actually see the flip side of that. Like, what actually worked? What made it last 7 years? And answering those questions also helped me make decisions in the present. Like, that relationship worked because we were friends first. So that taught me that it's better for me to be in a relationship with someone whom I'm friends with first. And that's the gift of that. So right now, I'm not really dating anyone. I tried going on this dating app. Didn't really like it. I didn't like the energy that it was bringing into my life. I didn't like the urgency of having to reply within 24 hours. I didn't like, the way that, profiles were made as if you could actually sum up a person with just a few pictures and a few sentences. Um, so I just thought that I could try being on there out of curiosity and see how it made me feel. And it felt out of alignment with who I am. So I'm deleting it this week. Maybe even after I finish this audio recording. But yeah, so among the things that my singlehood journey has taught me is that if it's not in alignment, then it's not. Just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean I have to do it also. I had to learn how to stop myself from accepting things even though I felt like it wasn't for me. And I'm still in that journey. I'm still a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist. But looking back from who I was 3 years ago, 10 years ago, I've come so far and I'm more empowered to make intentional decisions about dating and relationships. And that's it. Thank you.